and humanity and things like that don't necessarily agree. Yeah. But that's my point.
Point taken, but I disagree with you. I'm going on record as disagreeing with you. And to make a leap from Adolf Hitler and what he did, rolling over country after country after country, and trying to shed the same light on a guy named Saddam Hussein, that just doesn't wash. They're very different one from the other. Very different. In fact, Saddam Hussein was a good counterweight. He was our ally for a reason. He was a counterweight to Iran, because in the war between Iran and Iraq, we sided with Iraq. We gave him all those weapons of mass destruction that eventually, disintegrated, because there's a very short shelf life on those things. But we sided with Iraq against Iran because Iraq was a counterweight to Iran. And as long as Saddam Hussein was in power, Iran was a much weaker country. By taking out Saddam Hussein, we actually emboldened Iran. We did them a huge favor and did ourselves a huge disfavor.
Well, I don't disagree with that. As a matter of fact, when George H.W. Bush had his nice little war, I think it was like 1990 or something like that.
Over Kuwait.
Kuwait.
Where the Bush administration said, go into Kuwait. And as soon as they went into Kuwait, they said, "Oh, what are you doing in Kuwait?" And they attacked.
Well, I don't know about the Bush administration telling Saddam Hussein to go into Kuwait.
They took a benign position on that.
Really?
They didn't say don't go. They didn't say.
Okay. Well, be that as it may,
Kuwait.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
But for discussion purposes, basically George H.W. Bush put against a great coalition that went in and expelled them from Kuwait.
Yes.
But didn't go on and finish the job in Baghdad, and like Schwarzkopf wanted to do. Yeah. And many have speculated because of what you're saying. Geopolitically, it provided a counterweight to Iran.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because what you want to talk about today is, if Iran is such a lovely, peace-loving country that just wants to have nuclear power for medical uses and so forth, why do they need to have a counterweight? We don't have a counterweight to, say, Ireland, do we? We don't have a counterweight to, say, Canada, do we? No, because they're, peace-loving, rational countries. Not so the Iranians.
Is it fair to say that if we took out Iran, there would be more ISISes springing up? I mean, that's what happened because of Iraq.
Yeah, that is one of the
Saddam
most.
Hussein was very heavy-handed on Al Qaeda and all those other terrorists. Yeah, he was very heavy-handed on them. He fought them.
Well, a lot of Iranians.
So did Mubarak.
As opposed to the lie that he was friends with Al Qaeda.
That's a classic progressive liberal thought pattern, and here it goes. If we're nice to them, they won't burn us alive. If we're nice to them and understand, they won't throw gay people off of towers. And that's just a bankrupt philosophy. That's a lot like Gitmo. If we only closed Gitmo, those mean, dastardly terrorists would leave us alone. And it's just ridiculous.
Doesn't attacking Iraq and the consequences from that throw a little pall on your claim that attacking Iran would be somehow better?
No, and I'll give you 3 examples why.
You're absolutely wrong.
Well, let me give you my examples, and then you tell me I'm wrong.
The other one is stupider.
Okay, here's a stupid thought. A stupid thought is what you're talking about, saying if we only just left these people alone, they wouldn't attack us. And here are 3 quick examples.
We keep the sanctions on them.
You know who Klinghoffer was?
Sanctions.
Do you know who Klinghoffer was?
Leon Klinghoffer was thrown off of his boat or something like that.
And why did they throw him off?
Because he was Jewish.
Okay. And do you remember the attack on the World Trade Center circa 1993?
I thought you were going to say
2001.
Because we were talking before you got here about the conspiracy theory that on the day that the World Trade Center was struck, every Jew that worked there called in sick.
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember 1993.
Have you heard that?
No.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard a lot of...
It's pretty stupid, right?
Ridiculous.
Thank you.
So what happened in 1993?
In 1993, these whacked out Islamic terrorists
the guy that looked like Santa Claus
drove a bomb into the basement of World Trade and blew the thing up.
Yep.
And then in 2001, but the common denominator, all of that was before Gitmo. All of that was before we did mean things, and it's our fault. It's our fault. I think the American people, by and large, are kind of sick and tired of the left progressive mindset that these terrorists are doing these hideous things because of something that we did. It's our fault. And no better was that example than at the prayer breakfast, at the National Prayer Breakfast, where our president got up and said, lest we get on our high horse, we need to realize that there were crusades and there were Jim Crow laws and there was, I don't know, witch burnings or whatever it is.
Which, of course, means nobody's perfect.
No, what it means is he's trying to say that all this terroristic nonsense is our fault. Blame America first. We're the bad guys.
That's an incredible leap of insanity.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. It is a leap of insanity to claim that, and that's what our president did.
Your claim that that's what he was doing is a leap of insanity.
So when the president says, lest we get on our high horse, and he cites the Crusades, and he cites Jim Crow law, isn't that making some type of a moral equivalent to burning people alive and throwing homosexuals off buildings?
Yeah, I'm telling you, the Ku Klux Klan never burned anybody alive, and they're Christians.
No, but aren't they?
Right.
The Ku Klux Klan never burned anyone alive?
I'm asking you to agree with me, when obviously you won't, because they did.
No.
They were Christians.
Okay, but here's the difference.
How are these? We've got Ku Klux Klan in our country.
Okay.
We've got it's gaining a little bit of power again. How are these people that do this any different than the Ku Klux Klan, which burns people and hangs people, and tars and feathers people?
Okay, I'll answer your question.
Okay.
You answer the question. Here's the answer.
The Ku Klux Klan, go right ahead.
Here's the question. First of all, the Ku Klux Klan, I don't even know if it even exists anymore, but as far as lynchings and burns of life.
And the proof of that is that billboard up in Selma, next to the bridge.
See, what you're doing, I'm telling you.
We're starting. Hey, Dave, are we taping?
I think he said we're rolling. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I set my timer.
Okay, so we're 15.
Okay.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. Well, let's get.
Okay, what? You asked the question. I was going to answer it.
Finish your answer off, and then we'll start doing the show.
To make a moral equivalency to the Crusades or the Ku Klux Klan to what's going on now with Islamic terrorists is a very dangerous thing.
Why?
Because it causes us to have not engage these people to much like. This guy right here, Neville Chamberlain.
Yes.
Neville Chamberlain. He was in England, and he was faced with the same hideous things we see now with the Nazis. And you know what he did? He rolled over. Not unlike the appeasement that we see in this picture right here with Barack Obama when he didn't think that the mics were on, talking to Vladimir Putin's butt boy, was holding the job until he came back there saying, after the elections, I will have a lot more freedom to make deals with you. I think no one less than Mark Twain probably said it right.
Okay, we're not going to let you filibuster, but you got one more minute.
Okay, good. I can get it done in 30 seconds.
Bingo.
He said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And that's what we're seeing here, because we were once before faced with basically godless tyranny, much to what you see here, and yet, because of Neville Chamberlain and some others, we didn't address it initially. And that caused World War II. Weakness in the face. Weakness in the face of evil is much like an appeaser.
You're going over.
Who feeds the crocodile in hopes.
If this is a debate, you are overtime. No, because you're going past his minute.
An appeaser who feeds a crocodile hoping you will eat him. He will eat him last. That was Winston Churchill that says that.
Can I just say, aren't there certain religions though that do look down upon gays?
Oh, yeah. And they're Christians, aren't they?
No, it's interesting from a Christian point of view. Let's take prostitution.
Okay.
Let's go with gayness first. That's what we're talking about. You're trying to circumvent us onto another. You're trying to sidestep. Let's talk about gays and Christian attitude towards gays.
Okay, I would say
keep it focused.
Gay people are eternal souls for whom Jesus died. Yeah. They are beloved. Yeah. Their sin is no better or worse than anyone else. As a matter of fact, the second example I was going to give you from the Sermon on the Mount.
It's a sin to be gay?
I would say that, well, even worse than that, you ready for what the Bible talks about sin?
I want to hear what you say.
Okay.
I want your opinion.
What I say is sex outside of marriage is not the ideal. That's what I say.
Not the ideal, and sin are a little bit different from one another.
Well, here's what Jesus said. He says, a new commandment I give to you, that you should not commit adultery. Or said, you have heard that you should not commit adultery. But are you ready for this? This is our Jimmy Carter moment. Because the Bible actually says that even if you look on a woman to lust for her in your heart, it's as if you've committed adultery.
I remember the Playboy article.
Yeah, okay. I just buy it for the articles as well.
Okay, I do too.
Okay, so from the Christian perspective,
you gotta let me spring this on you because this is the notes I took from that I did 2 Basil Buddha Cat shows over the weekend with about Benjamin Netanyahu's speech in front of the House and Senate, at least the neoconservative portion of it. And so I'm giving these to Marty as a parting gift because Marty's, this could be worth something someday. Basil didn't autograph it, but I can get him to put his paw print on it if you'd like. But I wanted you to comment from this quote from the Bible. If I say John 14:27, you're not going to be able to narrow that one down.
No,
Marty's a divinity student. He knows the Bible. He can quote it probably from Genesis.
I've got a half dozen verses that I've quoted that I use to leave the impression of being a super spiritual person.
You do know a lot of stuff about the Bible, though.
Well,
you're a historian when it comes to the Bible.
Okay.
You may not agree with me on it. We may have disagreements about it, but you certainly know a lot more.
Well, the interesting
passages.
The interesting thing, you can drive down Main Street in Ridgefield, and there's probably 6 different churches. Yeah. Each one has a little bit different take on the same sacred text, which is the Bible. So that's not all that unusual.
Yeah, and then you have Judaism and Islam, which respect Jesus as a great scholar, have all the respect in the world for him. The only difference is they don't ascribe to him being the Son of God. Other than that, they're right on. They have a lot of respect.
I would say, in light of what we're seeing every time we turn on the television, I would say that Muslims and Jewish people have a little bit different. It isn't quite a subtle difference.
I'm just telling you what the Talmud and the Quran say about Jesus.
So if these men are throwing this man off the top of a building for being gay, and that's because they're Muslims, or
they're Muslims
because they're nuts, not because they're Muslims. Because they're just like KKK members, except under a different religion.
So you're saying in this article, has a little blurb underneath that says they're throwing him off for being gay, but
correct.
If a religion believes that being gay is evil, isn't that just as bad?
I don't think so.
Aren't you kind of one off the building?
Aren't you kind of giving them a pass on doing something
like that? It's kind of like looking at a woman and committing adultery. It's like the same thing.
Yeah. I would say. The funny thing about
the Bible says a lot about stoning women to death. That it's in the scriptures. It's holy. Do you agree with it or not?
I do not. I do not agree with stoning women caught in adultery. I do not agree with throwing homosexuals off of buildings. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
And luckily for me, neither did Jesus. Because actually, when you bring up that issue of stoning a woman caught in adultery, it's a classic biblical story.
Absolutely.
Where Jesus, went down. I think we talked about it earlier, and said, "He was without sin, cast the first stone."
Great story.
So from that point of view, Christianity is. But here's the crux of it.
That's what makes Christianity what it is. Very different from what it was.
Yeah, but sometimes you can take this concept, which I think you do, which is Jesus has a boys will be boys mentality.
Not at all.
Anything goes. Do whatever you want.
That's not what I say.
Divorce doesn't cause problems. Adultery doesn't cause problems. Homosexuality, whatever floats your boat.
That is so twisting my words. It's unbelievable. That is so twisting my words. Totally twisting my words.
Okay.
Your leap of faith goes from, maybe not from A to Z, but certainly from A to K, let's say.
Maybe it's 2 plus 2 equals 59.
There you go.
Okay,
here you go. Okay. So here's your biblical quotation, and it has to do, in my opinion, it has to do a lot with fear and how we're driven by fear into doing some crazy things, and sometimes driven by fear into following behind leaders that lead us down the primrose path of attacking another country out of fear of what might happen. Quote, "Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." John 14:27.
Okay.
I guess what I'm reading into that, and it might be very different than what you read into it, what I read into that is that you have to be very careful about paranoia and fear that's based on gut instinct rather than on rational thought. I mean, fear is a good thing. It keeps us alive.
Yeah.
It's built into us.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people, and these are people across the political spectrum, will use fear as an inducement. I'll give you a good liberal example. Karl Rove is killing. Karl Rove is horrible, horrible, horrible. And what's the follow-up to that? Send us money.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's the one who told Stewart
Republicans do this.
ham.
Ham.
That's who it was. And Karl Rove.
The other guy's the turtle. Yep. Karl Rove's the ham.
Yeah, that's it. And the Republicans have. Name me some of the people the Republicans use as whipping boys, as in their attempt to.
Harry Reid.
There you go.
Pelosi. We have to pass Obamacare so we can know what's in Obamacare.
Which wasn't the truth.
No, it's a quote. You want me to get it for you?
No.
I can get it right here.
No.
That's why we have to pass this law so we can find out what's in it. A quote. Don't test me on this. It's there.
Okay, so you can find it for me, I'm sure, somewhere in some article.
Article schmarticle. It's a video. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Along with Obama saying there are 57 states. It's on YouTube. Yeah. I know it doesn't fit your narrative of how geniuses all these people are.
And I gave you a complete explanation of that. We won't go into it. There are 57 primaries in the Democratic Party. 50 primaries. There's a caucus in Texas along with the primaries. You have Guam, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Stop me when I get to 57. Guam. Okay, that's 54 so far. Puerto Rico. There's the U.S. Citizens abroad. It adds up to 57, and that's what he was referring to.
You know the beautiful thing about the day and age in which we live? Is everyone out there in your vast viewing audience has one of these right within arm's reach. And you just click on YouTube and go Obama, 57 states, and you watch the video for yourself. Or you go Pelosi, we have to pass Obamacare so we can know what's in Obamacare, and you watch the video with your own eyes. That's the beauty of where we live. It's a wonderful thing.
What I'm curious about this, Marty, is that everybody said, it's such a huge bill, it's so complex, it's 2,000 pages long. I missed a couple of episodes of American Idol and read the bill, so I knew what was in the bill. So why didn't you? Why didn't you read the bill? Everybody said, nobody ever read it. The people in Congress that actually wrote the law didn't read the law. You made all these incredible claims. And I say incredible to be kind, because they're just friggin' insane. Can I say friggin' on television? I guess I did. Okay, so here you go. So you have this quote from John, and I think...
Okay, so your question is what?
Yeah.
Okay, let me grant you the point that you ought not be stampeded into a war.
Thank you. Like we were in Iraq.
Okay, and what you can cite there is Colin Powell's address to the United Nations, where
with the tubes, with the aluminum tubes.
The tubes, and then they had the railroad cars where they were building weapons of mass destruction in the railroad cars.
And again, a very huge, I won't say lie, but because it was a lie, the business about the yellow cake too from Niger, which we discussed maybe while we were on camera, that turned out to be a lie because the Bush administration sent Joe Wilson to double check this story from Curveball. It wasn't Screwball, it was Curveball, that circulated this story about Iraq buying yellow cake from Niger. Bush sent his guy there, Joe Wilson, to check the story out. Joe Wilson came back and said, no, it's a lie. And did George Bush say to anybody after then, well, we better be careful, that's a lie. My own guy said it's a lie. No, he went right ahead with the whole thing. And tried to destroy Joe Wilson by outing his wife. No, he didn't do that. It was the reporter that did it, that outed Joe Wilson's wife, Valerie Plame.
Okay, well,
see, this is what happens when you have, and this is, it's not the only time in history that a government, that an administration played a little feedback on people.
The Gulf of Tonkin comes to mind.
Absolutely.
That was...
remember the Maine.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember the Maine?
The hell was Spain?
And we had no idea. We had no idea who actually blew up the Maine.
But they're still debating that. Do you know that? They sent scuba divers down, what is it, in some bay in Cuba, and was the hull exploded this way or that way? Was it cargo?
Oh my God,
was it torpedo that came in, or was it internal cargo that came out?
They're still trying to figure out, they're trying to examine the Titanic still and try to figure out what exactly happened.
The Titanic wasn't used as a precursor to a war.
That was the Lusitania.
The Maine was the Lusitania was one.
Lusitania.
But let me just follow your logic if I can.
You remember Lusitania?
I believe.
And that helped get us into World War I.
Yeah.
Was that World War I or World War II?
World War I. Lusitania. Okay. Lusitania was sunk.
Okay.
And the backstory was, and it's never been proven or disproven. It's just a story. It's just somebody's speculation at this point, was that ship was actually carrying a lot of weaponry to Great Britain, and that's why the Germans sunk it. Not that sinking a ship with 2,000 people on board is a reasonable and rational reaction to a ship carrying weapons from point A to point B. It's still stupid. It's still insane. It's still horrible. It's still a horrible, aggressive act of war. But that was perhaps the Germans' mindset in making that decision to sink that ship. And that sinking of the Lusitania was one of the key elements that President
Woodrow Wilson,
yeah, not Ronald Wilson Reagan, but Woodrow Wilson, used to justify America getting in on the, because there was a lot of people in America.
Okay, but let's
that didn't want to get into World War I.
Yeah, well, let's unpack this then a little bit.
Go ahead.
So, by and large, what you're saying is, beware. The man claiming impending doom if you don't do something. Check it. Take a look at it. See what we're doing.
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. Well, actually, it was a Soviet saying.
Oh, okay.
But Reagan used it with Gorbachev, and he would quote it in Russian. It was like a Russian folklore or something.
And you mentioned that Reagan, every time he ran, Gorbachev finally said to him, You mention that every time we get together, or something to that effect.
I have so many thoughts going through my mind.
It's a great quote.
The good
Trust but verify. How do we verify Bibi Netanyahu's claims?
Well, hopefully.
Are we?
Okay, but you got to let me finish.
Or we're going to jump into war. Go ahead.
Okay, I got a couple thoughts because you got.
Okay, we got to stop right there because we're going to chop it up anyway. You know what? Let's just keep on going. And what I'll do is when I edit this, I will
cut it into two.
Yeah, I'll cut it into two. So we're going to go. We're going to go to 56 minutes.
Okay.
And we're at 31 minutes. We're going to go to 56 minutes. We're just going to continue, and I'll find an appropriate spot to just slice and dice.
And then
continue your thought.
Again.
Okay. Couple thoughts.
Yeah.
I got 2 or 3, so let me just keep rolling if you don't mind. Thought number 1, I grant you your point.
Through, and I give you credit for that.
I grant you your point that you don't want to be stampeded into war because war is hideous. Yes. A lot of people are hurt, people die, people are maimed.
And nobody knows that better than generals. Robert E. Lee was a great anti-war advocate after the Civil War.
Yeah, but he did say it is great that war is so evil lest we grow too fond of it. And he actually said that during the battle.
Yeah, exactly. Generals know what it's like. Generals know what it's like to send other people's kids in the battle to get killed.
But look, there's a jingoistic, patriotic, hey, let's get them, let's bomb them back to the Stone Age. Yeah, these sons of guns, we can't do. And we got to tap that down. Cooler heads need to prevail. Okay, and that's understood. I would point out that with Benjamin Netanyahu, he's not coming to America saying, hey, declare war on Iran, let's go get them. No. He's just giving cautionary thoughts about don't sign a bad deal. That's what he's saying.
On the surface, I'll give you credit for that's what those were his words.
Okay, and
excuse me for reading between the lines based on his speech back in 1996, where he said, "If we don't stop Iran right this minute, this is 19 years ago. If we don't stop Iran right now, Iran will have a nuclear weapon and it'll be at our backs tomorrow." 19 years ago.
To your point, what Benjamin Netanyahu did when he came and he gave a speech to the joint session of Congress, I listened to the speech, I read the speech, I appreciated the speech, and I by and large agreed with the speech. And I hope that this negotiation that's going on with Tehran right now will take the advice that he was given. In other words, the enemy of your enemy is your enemy. And these guys have a long history of supporting terrorism. I mean, going back to the Beirut bombing, Iranians are one of the largest state sponsors.
Now keep in mind that
you got to let me finish.
Let me just interject one thing real quick. Keep in mind that I'm just qualifying your statement. I agree with it, but I'm qualifying it because the government in Iran is a little different. You may not agree. You may not agree that it's extremely different. The government in Iran is a little different than it was back then. The guy with the beard, what was his name?
Ayatollah Khomeini?
No, the other guy, the guy with the light beard.
Oh, he was the guy that was embraced by Columbia University, and he talks about that there's no homosexuals in Iran.
What's his name?
I forget it right now.
I can't think of his name, but that guy was a lot more of a hardliner than the president in Iran now. But you'll make the point, and I'll agree with you, that the president of Iran is very secondary in power to the Ayatollah.
Yeah, the Ayatollah there, it's been very consistent.
But we're beginning to see a change in Iran.
Okay, well, here's what a change would look like from my perspective. We're sitting on a country that's awash in oil. We don't need any energy resources. The use of nuclear power for like chemotherapy and medical uses is very limited. Therefore, we don't need 290,000 centrifuges spinning this uranium that makes weapon-grade nuclear material. Okay, we've decided not to do that. You know who else did that? South Africa did. South Africa had a nuclear program that said, guess what, we're giving it up. Libya had the same thing. After they saw what happened, God, these Americans are serious, we're giving it up. Iraq had a nuclear plant, but guess what? Both Iraq and Syria, the Israelis sent their jets over there and bombed the heck out of it. Now, if Iran says, you know what, we're a peace-loving nation, we mean no one, no harm, that whole taking over the embassy and the hostages and all that, that's ancient history, we've changed our ways, and we're not going to use these centrifuges to make weapons-grade nuclear material, then I would say, great, let's trust but verify, and that's great. But unfortunately, that's not what they're doing. Okay, and you brought up Ronald Reagan. One of the greatest moments in international diplomacy in the Reagan administration took place in Iceland. I think it was this town called Reykjavik.
Yep.
And he went in there, and they did not agree to verify that they were going to limit these nuclear weapons, and he got up and he walked away from the table. And what happened to the Soviet Union soon after that?
They went into Afghanistan. Or were they already in Afghanistan? That's how the Soviet Union...
Well, you've called Afghanistan the death of empires.
So the Soviet Union.
Well, fair enough. But